Nintendo had announced that they're going to start doing Switch 2 Edition games, which is essentially just Switch 1 games, but with a better frame rate and graphics, and even with some added content. We'd seen Mario Party Jamboree get this brand new Jamboree TV, which was an additional game mode that you can play with the Switch 2 hardware. We've seen that Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are both getting Nintendo Switch 2 Editions, which once again is improving the gameplay, and also adding a couple of cool quality of life things, and even some little story moments that you can find in the overworld. HAL Labs, once again, being one of the few companies out there just literally blasting it with its content. I mean, seriously, getting a brand new additional game mode added to Kirby and the Forgotten Land with Star-Crossed World, which actually adds brand new levels for each world, and also brand new list of collectibles and missions for you to collect as well, and even new mouthful mode abilities. We might even get new capture abilities, we just don't know yet. Metroid Prime 4, which isn't even out yet, is also getting a Switch 2 edition, which allows us to play with the mouse mode, and obviously now in 4K 60 frames, or the 1080 120 frames HDR performance mode. And also another game that isn't out yet, Pokemon Legends ZA, which is getting a Switch 2 edition as well, which once again just makes the graphics a lot better. With 6 Switch 2 edition games that we already know about, I wanted to think about what other Switch games could be brought over for a Switch 2 edition, and what could they look like. Real quick before we get started, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo in general. So the first game that came to my head for some reason was Mario 3D All-Stars. This would be a great way to bring the game back since they decided to just like take it away from us, but bring it back with a Switch 2 edition, and it actually adds some new games. For instance, it adds 3D Land maybe, and also Galaxy 2, because how in the world was Galaxy 2 left out of a game called Mario 3D All-Stars? Yeah, it's still an All-Star, and for a lot of people it's even better than Galaxy 1. So why not have both 3D Land and Galaxy 2 in there? It'd be a great little Switch 2 edition that a lot of people would probably want to pick up. Going a little bit further, maybe improving some of those past 3 games a little bit more, like making Mario 64 full widescreen this time, but you know what, one can dream. One that actually truly surprised me that wasn't part of this launch lineup of Switch 2 editions is Mario Odyssey. Not only was Odyssey one of the major Switch games that didn't get DLC, but it also is not getting a Switch 2 edition, at least not yet, so I would really love to see eventually a Switch 2 edition of this game. Now, maybe it's because they have a big 3D Mario game like literally on the horizon, which they should, and maybe they save this for something later down the road, where they actually add maybe like a new kingdom or something like that Isle Delfino kingdom that looked like they were going to add, but actually never did. Maybe some type of fun Luigi co-op, or maybe play the game as Luigi. Something like that would be a great Switch 2 edition. Now this one's probably super unrealistic considering the fact that we're getting a brand new Mario Kart game as a launch game for Switch 2 with Mario Kart World, but what if they went back to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and gave it a Switch 2 edition? Because why not? The game's been living for literally almost 11 years now, so let's just keep it going. What if there's a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Switch 2 edition that gives you all the DLC packed into one game, and maybe even some more characters or something, like bringing in more characters from those other Nintendo franchises, maybe Kirby, Samus, Star Fox. That would be pretty cool, but probably leaving the amount of stages there, maybe just adding a couple little quality of life things and bumping up the graphics for some of those DLC stages because they look kind of bland. Doing that would make Mario Kart 8 Deluxe like literally an even better package. Another one that would make a lot of sense is Mario Maker 2, and just adding, for instance, another game style. Yeah, we were supposed to have that extra game style. Clearly, it was in its own section called Game Styles, and we only got one of them with 3D World. I would honestly just prefer another Mario Maker game, but if they were to bring Mario Maker 2 back, I would love a new game style, and maybe that new game style is even a 3D Mario Maker. Just testing the waters with this and having one game style like 64 or something for a full 3D Mario Maker experience and see what people think about it. It works out great. You can make a whole game about 3D Mario Maker with tons of different game styles. Luigi's Mansion 3 already looks phenomenal, so to see it even improved more or so with the Nintendo Switch 2's graphics would be crazy. And they could add a little adventure around the past rooms that you've already visited or the past floors. It's like a small ghost hunt that we did with Polterkitty, looking for her, looking at the footprints with our dark light, and just tracking down this unique ghost. And maybe it takes you to a new portion of the mansion, or maybe even takes you outside of the mansion to go around the outsides for a new little area, and there's one like unique portrait ghost boss fight or something along those lines, or a couple of new ones that you can play and explore. Of course, this time you'll get the whole multiplayer DLC pack and costumes for free. Something else I'll include is every Mario sports game, because they're all pretty lackluster and took so long to get us all the content. So what if they remade all of them and just gave us tons of new content for each one? Personally, I'd rather them just give us new sports games that are actually made with a lot of content from day one. But if they were to bring them back, fill them up with content, new characters, new maps, whatever, depending on the sports game. Just give it a lot of stuff to do this time around. Next up, we have Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which is already a game that they have brought back from the Wii U. So would this even be likely? Probably not. I just wanted to bring it up because what if they actually add a whole nother island on Lake Lapcat for you to explore, which is more of a challenge island. It's really difficult, and every mission there really puts you to the test of an ultimate Mario gamer. Something like that would be kind of cool, just to have an additional island to collect some cat shines. Something like that just to hold us off maybe a bit while longer until we wait for this 3D Mario game would be cool. Now originally I would say Yoshi's Crafted World could come over and they could actually pack it maybe with Yoshi's Woolly World this time around, but the only problem with this is I think Yoshi's Woolly World is already planned. During the actual Nintendo Direct, if you look closely, they actually showed a glimpse of what looks to be Yoshi's Woolly World as if it was a labeled Switch 2 title. So maybe Yoshi's Woolly World is coming regardless, or maybe Woolly World is coming as both a Switch 1 and Switch 2 edition, so who knows. So we have both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but what about Skyward Sword? We have Skyward Sword HD, but what if there was a Switch 2 edition that made the game look even better and also had a post-game story? Something similar to Xenoblade Chronicle 1's Future Connected DLC, which technically would take place as the birth of Hyrule. It's when Link and Zelda bring everyone down from Skyloft, and now they're on the ground, so this is where they would build, the castle, the kingdom itself, and really establish that kingdom, and we get to actually play through a little story of that as well. Maybe they have some, more bad guys to take out from the ground that haven't disappeared from demise yet. Some type of boss moblin or something, a little antagonist just for the side story's sake, or maybe Gyrahim is still alive or something, and we have to track him down and defeat him once and for all. Next up, we have Animal Crossing New Horizons. There's probably a new Animal Crossing literally on the horizon, but they want to go back and, until it's ready, and just give us, New Horizons again, give us a bunch of new items and things to decorate with, and also, maybe some added new islands with some past characters making a return for some new functions as well. Just finally giving some extra stuff for players to do as they wait for the next Animal Crossing game. But I'm definitely along the lines of there's got to be a new Animal Crossing game coming literally within a year or two. What about Metroid games? Metroid Dread could get an update where it just looks and runs a little bit better, and maybe we get a new little area to go explore with a small little new boss fight, maybe some type of returning boss from a past Metroid game that ties into the story well, and maybe just a little secret that you can go do. It just opens up in your map and shows you where to go in order to find that secret new area. That would be pretty cool as well. For instance, what if there's one more Emmy to find, and it's a super Emmy, it has all the abilities of every single one put into one, and it's a giant version of the Emmy, a giant towering robot that's even more scary, and there's a bunch of little ones that it can send out to chase after you and stuff. That could be really awesome. And what if Metroid Prime Remastered got something where it's not just Metroid Prime, but it's Metroid Primes 1, 2, and 3 all remastered like the first game was, and that's the new addition. It gives you the other two games, giving it kind of a Metroid Prime trilogy remastered situation, which would be really cool because we need the other two games on Switch. I gave up on them. I had to go back and, boot up my Wii U in order to play them, and I just am not a big fan of the Wii motion controls compared to the Pro controller, which is so much more streamlined and just easier to use and easier on the wrist for sure. So yeah, that would be an awesome way to bring that back as a Switch 2 edition by adding the other two games, which would be a pretty crazy new pack of games, I can't lie. What about Pikmin 4? Well, we do have an Olimar side mode. What if we had a Louis side mode that actually told his story and his adventures with, I'm not going to tell you who, but, I don't want to spoil the game if people are still playing it, but yeah, you could have his just pretty much whole entire side story about what he went through, what his intentions were, and, kind of the areas of the map. Maybe he has a couple new areas that we haven't seen from both Olimar and our main character. So to have his own little side story, very similar to Olimar's with that classic Pikmin gameplay as well, where you have to get back to the ship at a certain amount of time, and you have a certain amount of days to complete your adventure, would be really awesome. Just wanted to bring this game up because I know a lot of people are going to be saying, but what about Splatoon? Well, I don't think Splatoon's going to be here. I don't think it makes sense to have a Switch 2 edition. These are online-focused games, and they've all had their respected times and their final Splatfest, pretty much, and just all their, main attention is gone. It's time for the next Splatoon game to start a new trilogy. No, I don't think any of the Splatoon games are going to get any edition games. Now, I know some of them do have DLCs, which could be a reason for them to get editions, but I think they need to just move on to the next Splatoon game. But if they were to get anything, it would just be, DLC included and upgraded visuals and frame rate now with that 120 FPS, which will make a huge difference for battling. Switch Sports could get one, and maybe it turns it into like a Switch Sports Resort, where you actually have all the games finally all in one, and it also includes a bunch of other games as well, maybe the ability to, freely roam around that Switch Sports Island, which looked pretty cool. I think it was Spacco Square, so being able to walk around and kind of explore things and maybe have little collectibles, maybe we can fly planes around them like we could with Wii Sports Resort, stuff like that would be really cool for a Switch 2 edition, and I think a lot of people would be more interested in something like that than what we had with the first game, where we had to wait almost like 4 or 5 years for all the sports to finally be added, which is just ridiculous. We do have Pokemon Legends ZA already, and that's not even out yet, but what about all the Pokemon games that are out, like Scarlet and Violet? Definitely would need a patch update for Switch 2, or something like Sword and Shield, but mostly Scarlet and Violet. That game is completely broken from what I've seen online. So having Switch 2 editions of any of the mainline Pokemon games or any other Switch Pokemon games that need it could just be huge, just to have that performance boost. If it adds something, great, but I think a lot of players would love to have that option of just upgrading those games. Now maybe they get upgraded regardless, but having those Switch 2 editions where you're just guaranteed to have a lot better graphics, no bugs, no glitchiness, and it just runs very smoothly at 60 frames or even 120 frames would make Pokemon fans very happy with those games, and maybe even change the public perception of a lot of those games in the first place, where they have built up some pretty negative rep because of the way they run on Switch 1. Now we move on to Smash Brothers. You knew this one would come up, and of course with all the DLC that game got, just a version where all the DLC is in the game day one, and also it just boosts up the graphics a lot, makes the game look better, run even smoother than it does already, which it is a very smooth running game. Maybe improves on the online a little bit, because that is the part where it gets a little shaky, but besides that, do they add anything else? I doubt it, but maybe there's like 2 or 3 or maybe even just one new additional character that would, incentivize people to pay for that little upgrade pack, or maybe some additional new mode or something, maybe like a proper story mode or something that works with all the characters already, something like that, or maybe just adding some past modes like from the Smash 4 versions where you have Smash Run and also Smash Tour. Any of those would be pretty cool to see return just for the heck of it, just adding even more content to the awesome content of Smash Ultimate. Now, I normally don't talk about Xenoblade and Fire Emblem, but that's how I want to end this video. I don't know much about Fire Emblem, so I'm not going to touch on all those games, but I just started Xenoblade. I finished the first game and its DLC, so I can finally talk about Xenoblade at least a little bit, and I can say that I know each game has its own DLC pack, so maybe each game gets to come back with its DLC pack included. These graphics are good, but they can definitely be a whole lot better, especially with the first game, which does have a lot of that Wii graphic feel to it still, so they can improve in the graphics greatly and just keep that frame rate, like we're going to be good to go, and just have those DLC packs as an update. Maybe there's even some more side stories that they want to tell with each of the individual games for some reason. For instance, if they brought back Xenoblade Chronicles 1 again, maybe there's an additional side story, this time when Shulk and Melia go to Alchemoth and leave the others back in Colony 9, maybe the others go on their own adventure back there into a new part of their land as well, and we get to play as like Ryan, Dunban, Ricky, and all of them, which would be pretty cool. Now, honestly, I could probably go through Nintendo's entire Switch lineup and talk about every single game, including the Mario spin-offs like the RPGs with Mario RPG, Paper Mario, Mario and Luigi, but those are the main games that I think Nintendo might look at for Switch 2 editions. But let me know in the comments down below if you think these games will make it as Switch 2 editions, or is there any other games that maybe I didn't think about that could also get some really cool additional content as well. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Nintendo, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.